My name is Anna. I am 29 years old. I work as an article writer at a small news agency in Arizona. My life was simple. I woke up early, drank my coffee, went to work, and came home to my little apartment. I loved writing. It made me feel alive. It made me feel strong. One afternoon, everything changed. I met someone. His name was Mark. He came to our office for an interview. He was not like other people. He smiled warmly. He listened carefully. He made everyone feel important. When he talked to me, he said, "I like how you speak. You are different. You are special." No one had said that to me before. I felt my heart beat faster. I smiled and looked away. I was not used to someone giving me attention. Mark started visiting our office more often. He brought coffee sometimes. He asked me questions about my articles. He laughed at my jokes, even when they were not very funny. I started to wait for him without knowing it. I would check the door every few minutes, hoping to see his face. One day he said, "Anna, would you like to have lunch with me?" I felt nervous, but I said yes. We went to a small cafe near my office. We talked for hours. He asked me about my dreams. I told him I wanted to write a novel one day. He smiled and said, "You will. You are smart. You are special." That word again. Special. I believed him. I believed every word he said. After that lunch, we started meeting more often. We went for walks after work. We sat in the park and talked about life. Sometimes he would just look at me and smile. He made me feel seen. He made me feel important. At night, I would lie in bed and smile. I thought, maybe this is what love feels like. Soon, Mark started calling me every morning. "Good morning, beautiful," he would say. His voice made my day better. He made me feel like I was the only woman in the world. One evening he said, "Anna, I want you to know, you are very special to me. I have never met anyone like you." My heart was full. I trusted him completely. Weeks passed, and we became closer. I thought we were building something real. I started dreaming about the future. I pictured us living together, maybe even starting a family one day. But slowly, things began to change. Mark started calling less. Sometimes he would cancel our plans at the last minute. He would say he was busy with work. I believed him. I told myself he loved me. He just had a lot to do. One night, I waited at a small restaurant for 2 hours. We were supposed to have dinner together. I wore my favorite blue dress. I even curled my hair. I wanted to look perfect for him, but he never came. When I called him, he answered after a long time. His voice was cold. "Sorry, Anna. I forgot. I'm busy with some friends." I felt my chest hurt, but I smiled through the phone and said, "It's okay. Maybe another time." I sat there alone, pretending everything was fine. But inside, I felt small. I felt like I didn't matter. The next day, he sent a short text. "Busy week. Talk soon." No call. No apology. Just those words. Still, I waited for him. I told myself he was just tired. I told myself he cared but didn't know how to show it. One Friday night, he showed up at my door without warning. He smiled like nothing had happened. He kissed my forehead and said, "I missed you, my special girl." My heart forgot the pain. I let him in. I told myself love means forgiving. I made him coffee. We sat on the sofa and talked like old times. I laughed at his jokes. I smiled at his stories. But deep inside, something had changed. I started feeling scared. I was scared of asking too many questions, scared of making him angry, scared of pushing him away. I didn't want to lose him. I thought, if I love him more, he will stay. One evening I asked, "Mark, what are we? Are we together?" He smiled but didn't answer right away. Then he said, "Anna, you know how I feel. I don't like putting labels on things. You're special to me. Isn't that enough?" I forced a smile. I said, "Yes, it's enough." But it wasn't. I wanted to be chosen. I wanted to be loved. Not just called special when it was easy for him. From that night, the space between us grew bigger. He texted less. He visited less. Sometimes he disappeared for days. When he came back, he always had sweet words ready. "You're different from all the others, Anna. You're the only one who understands me. You're special." And every time he said it, I believed a little less. One evening, I saw him across the street. He was with another woman. She laughed loudly and touched his arm. Mark smiled at her the way he used to smile at me. My heart broke quietly. I stood there, frozen. I didn't cry. I didn't shout. I just watched him walk away, laughing with someone else. I went home and sat on my bed. I stared at the wall. I thought about every word he said. I thought about every promise he never made, but I had believed. I realized something hard. He liked having me around when it was easy. He liked feeling important. He liked knowing someone loved him. But he never truly cared for me. I was special to him only when it suited him. I was not his first choice, maybe not even his second. That night, I cried for hours. I cried for the girl who waited at the restaurant. I cried for the girl who answered every call. I cried for the girl who believed simple words could build real love. I cried for myself. When the morning came, my eyes were swollen. My heart was tired. I made a strong coffee. I looked at myself in the mirror. I saw a woman who gave her heart fully. I saw a woman who loved without holding back. I saw a woman who deserved more than sweet lies. I told myself, no more waiting, no more hoping, no more trying to be enough for someone who never truly saw me. It was not easy. It hurt deeply. But deep inside, a small seed of strength was growing. I didn't know how, but I knew one thing. I would heal. I would stay strong. I would save myself. I didn't need him to tell me I was special. I already was. Before I share the rest of my story, I want to ask you something. Where are you listening from? Sometimes I wonder if someone out there truly hears me. Someone who understands what I'm feeling. It gives me strength to know I'm not alone. So please, tell me in the comments. The days after that night were hard. I woke up each morning feeling heavy. I still reached for my phone, hoping to see his message, but there was nothing. Just silence. I wanted to call him. I wanted to ask him why he made me feel so small. But I didn't. At work, I smiled at my colleagues. I wrote my articles. I met my deadlines. But inside, I felt empty. I kept hearing his voice in my head. You are special. Those words meant nothing now. They were just soft lies to keep me close. One afternoon, my editor asked me to write a story about a new art exhibit in the city. I didn't feel like going, but I said yes. I needed to get out of my apartment. I needed to breathe different air. The gallery was full of colors and music. People laughed and talked. I walked slowly, looking at the paintings. Each one told a story. Some stories were sad. Some were full of hope. One painting caught my eye. It showed a woman standing alone in the rain. Her face was not sad. It was strong. I stood there for a long time. I thought, this is how I want to be. Not broken, not waiting, just standing, strong. Mark texted me that evening. It was short. Miss you. Wanna see you. For a moment, my heart jumped. My fingers moved fast. I almost replied, I miss you too. But then I stopped. I remembered the woman in the rain. I remembered the silence. I remembered the other woman. I didn't answer. The next day he called. I let the phone ring. He called again the next day. I didn't pick up. I wanted to, but I didn't. I sat on my bed, holding my phone tightly. Tears ran down my face. Saying no to him hurt more than I thought it would, but I knew I had to do it. At work, I started writing different articles about strong women, about people who fought for their dreams, about standing up after falling. With each story I wrote, I felt a little stronger. Sometimes at night, memories of Mark came back. I remembered how he smiled, how he touched my hand, how he made me feel important. I missed those moments. I missed who I was when I believed I was loved. But I also remembered the empty restaurant, the cold texts, the woman on the street. One evening, I made tea and sat by my window. The city lights blinked like tiny stars. I thought about my life. I had dreams before Mark. I had plans. I loved writing. I loved simple things like rainy mornings and fresh bread. I had lost pieces of myself when I tried to make him stay. It was time to find them again. I started small. I bought a new notebook. I wrote down things I loved. Walking in the park. Drinking coffee at my favorite cafe. Watching old movies on weekends. Calling my aunt who always made me laugh. Each day, I tried to do one thing that made me happy. Some days it was easy. Some days it felt heavy. But I kept trying. Mark still texted sometimes. Thinking of you. I miss your smile. Let's meet. His words were soft. His words were sweet. But they were not enough. One Saturday afternoon, I saw his name flash on my screen again. I stared at it. Then I pressed delete. My heart hurt, but it also felt lighter. One evening, I went back to the park where we used to walk. I sat on a bench and watched the sunset. A small boy ran past me, laughing. A couple walked by, holding hands. Life moved forward, with or without me. I realized I didn't need Mark to move forward too. I thought about all the times I said sorry when I didn't do anything wrong. All the times I stayed quiet to keep him comfortable. All the times I made myself small so he would not feel trapped. I didn't want to live like that anymore. I wanted to laugh loudly. I wanted to speak my mind. I wanted to love without fear. I wanted to love myself first. One Monday morning, my editor called me into his office. He smiled and said, "Anna, your last articles have been amazing. So real, so strong. We want you to start a weekly column about life stories, about real feelings." I felt my eyes fill with tears. Good tears, happy tears. I said yes. My first column was about strength, about standing up after falling, about believing you are enough, even when someone makes you feel small. I didn't mention Mark. I didn't need to. The story was mine. The healing was mine. Readers started sending messages. They said my words helped them. They said they felt less alone. One message said, "Thank you for writing what I couldn't say." I smiled when I read it. I realized something important. Maybe my pain was not useless. Maybe it could help someone else feel strong too. Some nights were still hard. Sometimes I still missed him. Sometimes I still wondered what we could have been if things were different. But I didn't let those thoughts break me anymore. I let them pass like soft rain. I was not the same Anna who waited at the restaurant. I was not the same Anna who believed sweet words without actions. I was stronger now. I was still healing, but I was standing. One evening, while walking home, I saw Mark again. He was sitting outside a cafe laughing with some friends. He looked up and saw me. Our eyes met. He smiled, the same soft smile he always gave me. But this time, I didn't feel small. I didn't feel sad. I didn't feel weak. I smiled back, polite but distant, and walked away without stopping. My heart did not race. My hands did not shake. I felt peace. As I walked, I whispered to myself, I was always special. I just forgot for a while. And that was enough. Weeks turned into months. Slowly, the pain in my chest became smaller. I still thought of Mark sometimes, but not with sadness, not with anger, just with quiet understanding. He was part of my story, but he was not my ending. My days became full again. I woke up early. I made fresh coffee. I wrote my columns. I talked with new people. Some days I walked for hours in the park, breathing in the soft air. Some days I stayed home, reading books and letting the quiet heal me. I learned how to be alone without feeling lonely. I stopped checking my phone every 5 minutes. I stopped waiting for a message that would never come. I stopped needing someone else to tell me I was enough. I already was. One rainy afternoon, I was sitting in my favorite cafe, working on my next column. A woman sat down at the table next to mine. She looked nervous. She kept looking at her phone and biting her nails. After a while, she started crying softly. I looked at her and smiled. She looked surprised, like she didn't expect kindness from a stranger. Without thinking much, I said, "It gets better." She wiped her tears and smiled back. Just a small smile. But it was real. I realized that healing is not only about feeling better for yourself. Sometimes healing is also about helping someone else feel less alone. That evening, I wrote in my notebook, "Pain changes you, but it can also make you softer, wiser, and stronger, if you let it." It was true. I was not the same Anna who had fallen for sweet words. I was someone new now. Someone who knew that love is not about empty promises. Love is about showing up, about choosing each other every day, about truth, not pretty lies. One morning, my editor called me again. "Anna," he said, "there's a small news agency opening a new branch. They are looking for someone strong to lead a team, someone who can write about real life. I thought of you." I froze for a second. Me? Led a team? The old Anna would have doubted herself. She would have thought, "I'm not good enough." But now, I smiled and said, "I would love to." I knew I could do it. I knew I had stories to tell. I knew I could make a difference. On my last day at the old office, my coworkers hugged me and wished me luck. I packed my things slowly. Each book, each notebook, each little memory was a piece of my journey. When I walked out the door for the last time, I did not feel fear. I felt free. The new office was small but full of energy. I met young writers who wanted to change the world. They looked at me with trust. They believed I could guide them. And I did. I taught them to write with heart, to listen carefully, to tell the truth, even when it was hard. One afternoon, after a long meeting, I sat by the window and watched the sunset. The sky was pink and gold. The air was soft and warm. I smiled and thought, I made it. Not because life was perfect, not because I forgot the pain, but because I kept going even when it hurt. Because I chose myself even when it was hard. And that was real strength. One Saturday, I walked into a bookstore. I loved the smell of old paper and new dreams. I looked at the shelves, touching the books gently. I thought about my old dream, writing a novel. For a long time, that dream felt far away. But now, it felt close again. It felt possible. I bought a fresh notebook and a new pen, not because I needed them, but because I wanted to remind myself, dreams do not die. They just wait for us to be ready. When I got home, I opened the notebook and wrote the first line. This is the story of a woman who forgot how special she was, and then remembered. I smiled. It was not just a story. It was my story. Later that evening, I went for a walk. The city lights were soft. The streets were full of life. Music floated out of small cafes. People laughed and talked. The world moved forward, and so did I. As I walked, I thought about love, about how I once gave my heart to someone who didn't deserve it, about how I once thought being loved by someone else was the most important thing. Now I knew better. Being loved by yourself was the real magic. I walked past the cafe where I once saw Mark. I didn't stop. I didn't look inside. I didn't wonder if he was there. It didn't matter anymore. I had learned to be my own safe place, my own home, my own love story. When I got home, I made tea and sat by my window again. I watched the sky turn from pink to dark blue. I felt calm. I felt ready for whatever came next. I whispered to myself, "You are special, Anna. You always were." And this time, I truly believed it. Thank you for listening. Always remember, your worth is not measured by someone else's love.